with pleasure that I rise to speak to the estimates debate in relation to the Department of Corrections. Can I first off congratulate Corrections because they have now received an extremely good response from the public. Research New Zealand's June 2010 quarterly survey showed that 61% of respondents had confidence in corrections, and that is up from its previous high of 40% when Phil Goff was the minister under a Labour government. And goodness knows what it was before that under all the other ministers it had. So 61% as opposed to 40%. And what that does is it indicates the amount of hard work that has gone on in corrections over the last 18 months, and also, frankly, the amount of support that this government has given to the changes that have needed to be made in corrections. For instance, we've had to increase the number of probation staff by another 303. And what that's all about is the fact that we have had a big increase over the years in the community-based sentences, 45,000 community-based sentences now being looked after by corrections, and that actually required a large increase in staff, but also for corrections to look at the way in which they managed prisoners and the situational offenders, and to make sure that they were using their discretion, using their training, and making the very best decisions based on what they knew and what their training taught them. But we've also seen a big increase in the prisoners housed in corrections over the last decade. When I first came into this role, I was told that we were looking at we would run out of beds for prisoners by February this year. And corrections had a plan for it, and that was to increase the double bunking and to we brought in container cells. When I announced we were going to bring container cells, it was dismissed as a stunt. We had Peter Williams QC saying it would be a slum. Well, I invite him to come out and have a look any time, because it's some of the best accommodation we've got in corrections, frankly, and is a vast improvement on almost anything else that I've seen around the country. I mean, no longer do we see people with potties in their room, as I saw at Waikeria the other day. Container cells, it's all mini en-suites, and it's warm, and it's contained, and they're fantastic. I know the Green Party don't like them, but they're recycled, so they're very green. So I'm not quite sure what we have to do to please them. But what we do know is that under the previous government, they built 4 new prisons and started a rebuild of Mount Eden. We're looking to finish that rebuild in Mount Eden and build another prison. So we're not looking to build another 4, we're looking to build another 1 and to complete the one that they didn't finish. But what we're also looking to do over the next year is to bring in more of the private sector into the working in corrections. And I'm pleased that the Maori Party supports that, because it's not that we've got any problems with the way corrections are doing things, but it's very important to bring in a benchmarking for corrections, and also to offer opportunities for iwi to get more involved in rehabilitation. Because what we do know is that for 15% of the population, Maori represent 51% of the male prison population. It's even worse for the female prison population. And I know the Labour Party doesn't like to admit it, but basically that tells us there are real social issues that are driving that crime. Because people don't just commit crime, there's all sorts of things that go on from the time that they're born, or probably even before they're born, which actually leads to crime actually becoming a way of life. So what we do know is that if we are to succeed in the corrections area, if we succeed into the justice area, we need to succeed for Maori. And if we don't, then we are going to continue down the path that we have for years and years of increasing prison populations. Now, I think most people would realise that I'm pretty staunch when it comes to people who commit violent crimes and locking them away, and for a long time. And frankly, there's no problem with that as far as I'm concerned, because when more of those sorts of people are locked away, there are fewer victims, and frankly that's a good thing. But I think it's very important to look at what happens when they come out. And what amazes me is that the previous government, that likes to make out it's very, very kind about rehabilitation, actually did very little at all. What we're doing in the national government is we're doubling the amount of rehabilitation available to prisoners. So now we are doubling the amount of drug and alcohol rehabilitation. We have more than half of our prisoners involved in any day in work or education or training. We're actually doing all the things that they talked about, but we're doing it well.
Members, the question is that vote corrections stand part of the schedule. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary will say no. The ayes have it.